Let's just assume, you got to step inside the criminal's mind, which we are now finding out the real criminals are the ones occupying the government side of the fence. So let's step inside their mind for a minute. Let's just assume that in 19, if my pen wants to work, 1979. Let's just assume that some 14-year-old boy was looking to lose his virginity, not with somebody that he might later on in life fall in love with, but with some random stranger. And he got the thought in his head through his friends and people in his community. And let's just say that they found some girl close to his age, 16 years old. And her name just happened to be, we're going to use a fictitious name. We'll say her name's Joann. And so they pick her up. She's a runaway on the streets. And, what better opportunity for someone to lose their virginity using someone that they won't fall in love with today, preserving their love for another day, than to pick up some random stranger, a girl unknown by people, and, egging him on to take his first steps to lose his virginity. And while they're doing this, they're older, more like adults, encouraging him to do these things. To work up his nerve, they're feeding him alcohol. And so he has her at his disposal, and his friends are egging him on. And so he attempts to lose his virginity, but he can't rally up the stick to poke the water ball, let's say. And so she stands back and laughs at him because they're holding her hostage for the one reason is to aid and abet this 14-year-old so that he can lose his virginity and save his love for later on in life. And because she's laughing at him, and then his friends start laughing at him, he starts crying and runs back to the car and grabs a gun and shoots her in the head. And then she's dead. And then he goes home and, tells his mom about it, and she happens to know people in the community, and they all cover it up. And then somebody says, because he can't get over what he did to this girl, he killed her. Someone says to him, well, just go find another Joann out there. You don't have to love her, but just keep her alive. Run her close to death. And so the whole community knows what he did because, well, his mother covered it up. And in order to cover it up, she would have to have consulted with somebody that maybe just recently got their law degree, maybe in 1976. So he is allowed to move forward in life and have somewhat of a normal life because it was covered up by his mother and this attorney that she knew that recently achieved his status as an attorney. And so he keeps in the back of his mind that, keep the girl alive somehow. And then after a while, he'll forget he even did it to her. He'll forget after a while that he even killed her. And so he, later on in life, decides he's going to go in the military because, he needs to separate himself from what he did. And plus he's running from other things because he's demented in the head. And so he enters the military and he sees this girl that's also in the military, and her name happens to be Joann. And so he decides he's gonna keep the first Joann alive that he killed by capturing the second Joann. And so he begins to stalk her, this one, the second one, and ultimately drugs her and rallies some of his friends, almost like what happened in 1979. But now he's in the military, and the friends that he rallies are also in the military. And so while the second Joann, number 2 Joann, is drugged out, they gang rape her as payback for the first Joann that laughed at him because he couldn't get it up. So the second Joann gets punished because of what happened in 1979 with the first Joann. And so he now has captured the second Joann that carries the same first name as the first Joann. And he carries her and a baby into his county, and the county that he had lived in back in 1979, and people ultimately know what he did to the first Joann. And so in support of him recovering from what he did when he was 14 years old and she was 16 years old, they all join hands and gather up to destroy the life of the second Joann. And while they're doing that, they're advertising and promoting themselves through this ongoing search for the person who killed the first Joann. But they know damn well who killed the first Joann. The whole community knows about it. And so the second Joann, who knew nothing about the incident that happened in 1979 because she wasn't from the same community or the same state, ends up living a torturous life, humiliated, degraded, tossed aside on the streets after working her like a slave to keep up with all the demands of the 14-year-old. And to this very given day, he's still being rewarded by his community, where every legal issue leans in his favor. Are those people considered the ones aiding and abetting? Because who knows what happened from when he was 14 and killed the 16-year-old girl. How many others, while they were aiding and abetting him, has he actually killed? That is a question. You might want to revisit that case with Tammy Jo Alexander. The one that happened in Livingston County, New York, because there's something very odd and peculiar about the 14-year-old that went into the military who was carrying an ID claiming that he was born in 1963, which happens to be the year that the victim was born, when in all reality he was born in 1965. So in introducing himself to primarily females, he would claim that he was born in 1963. So for all the years where they've held the Joann number 2 and her children on the strands of abuse never ending, this individual was allowed to continue to live a normal life while others were placed in the position of harm. Is that fair? No. In any other community, they would want to see justice being done. But in Livingston County, New York, justice is only covered up to protect their people that were born and raised in their community. And the more and more people that joined in hands in destroying the life of the Joann, the second one, so that they could protect the secret of their community involving Joann number 1. There would have to be like some type of authority much greater than the United States to break that one open. Because if they didn't hamper down on all the activity that the 14-year-old mind was operating in all this time, then, I don't think people should have to pay for somebody else's mistakes. And however it all happened, I'm pretty sure I'm close to the mark on this. This person is not this person. And this person is not that person. And this person shouldn't be punished because of that person, regardless of how her life was ended. And nor should that person's children be punished for what he did. Hope I'm making myself clear.